Hey there, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for this session. We're here today to talk about how relationships are our most important asset, more specifically, how to build, maintain, and leverage your professional relationships. We have a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and jump in. First, just a little bit of background on me. So my name is Zvi Band. I was co-founder and CEO of a company called Contactually. We were a relationship-oriented CRM, founded in 2011, raised $12 million in capital, grew, pretty significantly over the time, and then was acquired in 2019 by Compass, the big tech-oriented real estate platform. It's because we start off very broad and then focus on a particular niche, which happened to be residential real estate agents. But honestly, all of these principles I learned apply to any type of professional who cares about building relationships and cares about growing their business, their career, their life, etc. And we had thousands of customers outside of real estate. Because of that, I authored a book that came out in 2019 called Success is in Your Sphere, which lays out a lot of very specific tactics and approaches to building relationships. You can buy this on Amazon. It was ranked as one of the best business books of 2019, etc. I speak as well, which is kind of surprising because I'm actually a big introvert and I'm a software developer by trade. And of course, if you're interested in connecting afterwards or finding out any more information, you could head to Zvi.band, or you could just also Google Zvi Band. I think I'm the second page of results for Zvi right now. But let's go ahead and get started. This isn't necessarily meant to be a brag sheet of all the cool stuff that's happened in my career. But the common thread among all of these, I was offered as a CTO role of a seed funded startup the moment they had raised capital. I started building my own consulting firm. I worked with the likes of Ford and CBS and Volkswagen and First Round Capital and all these amazing firms. When I started Contactually, all I had was a very basic prototype, but I brought on our first two investors really with just that. And this was back before startup funding was that common back in 2011. I was incredibly fortunate to bring on this incredibly rich talent base. And by doing that, that obviously led to meaningful growth for our company. Again, software developer by trade, but I brought on some of our biggest customer contracts, of all time. I think in 1 month we closed $1 million in new business because of the relationships I was able to bring in. And finally, leading up to acquisition, we got multiple inbound acquisition proposals. Now, this is not meant to be like a brag sheet of oh, wow, Zvi, you've accomplished so much. Look at you. Honestly, that's really not the case here. It's because I was able to be successful at building and maintaining relationships. And those relationships were what led to all these great opportunities. And I've seen the incredible power of relationship building, here. And that's what I want to focus. That's what I want to focus on today. Now, again, what we're not going to be talking about today, we're not here to talk about how you can figure out how to be good at your job. That's on you. That's table stakes. Go to school. Build stuff, etc. There are many other ways that you should focus on how to be good at your job. We're not talking about building a brand or blogging or optimizing your website. We're not going to teach you about cold outreach. Instead, we're going to focus on the most important thing that you almost certainly already know people who have, who will be of interest. Awesome people get more awesome over time. And they, of course, know other people as well. So we're going to focus on how you build and maintain the relationships that you already have. So let's take a step back and focus on why do we care about this? Or why are we going to spend so much time talking about relationship building? Can't I just be good at staying in touch with people and that's it, right? Or maybe you're even wondering hey, why are relationships important for me at all? Well, let's actually rewind back and let's talk about basic human sociology. Remember, at root, we are social creatures. the thing that separates humans from so many other species is that we have achieved these amazing things in life by working together, right? And it's because that root, right? And again, you can kind of go back and look at human biology and say like, okay, because of like the massive human brain, it takes a lot of energy, and as a newborn we didn't have the type of energy, so we had to rely on the tribe for that. Okay, you can go and nerd out on that at some point later on, but the fact of the matter is that we relied on our tribe, and our family from a very early age to keep us out of danger and to keep us safe. And now remember, only 10, 20,000 years have passed since those times. And so now we rely on that trust of the tribe, that trust of that trust in the people that we know, to figure out who outside of that circle is trusted, right? So, you and I haven't met before, but let's say you and I both know, Luis, right? Well, if you know Luis and I know Luis and we both trust them, then therefore we can trust each other, right? And so that's obviously the way that trust works. The difference is, though, is that while our networks have gotten bigger, right, our brains haven't, right? In ancient times, we had our tribe, right? We had the people that were physically like within shouting distance of us. That's all we would deal with at any point in time. Now, of course, and the human brain wasn't built to be able to handle relationships, on the other side of the globe, right? You and I are talking right now, and you have no idea where in the world I am. I happen to be in Maryland, by the way. You would have no idea like where I may be, right? And it doesn't matter, because the amazing thing about technology is that we can be connected with anyone. And even before that, right? With the invention of like air travel and other modern transportation, you know, our families and our networks was no longer just like who we could see within like a day or two's walk or horse ride, right? It could be anyone, anywhere, right? That we can consider part of our network. But our brains haven't changed. And there's a really great piece of research by Robin Dunbar, that identified that the human brain can only maintain around 150 relationships ever any point in time, right? Try honestly even like taking out a piece of paper right now and thinking about like, literally do the exercise. Who are all the people that I know? And you 100% will miss so many people, right? Because your brain just like can't store that amount of information. So we have to find some way of making sure that we can maintain the relationships beyond that. And the big problem with that, right? The reason why we don't want to forget people, or we don't want people to forget us, more importantly, is because those are people that could lead to opportunities, right? So, for example, like let's think about your freshman year college roommate, right? Obviously, like you had a really great relationship with them, very early on. You spent your entire lives together for a year or so, but then hey, you freshman year graduates, freshman year ends, you move on, you find other roommates, and kind of life goes on. Well, that mind share starts to decrease, right? Yeah, you may remember their name, but let's say, for example, if you wanted to remember like who a good software developer was, well, your freshman year roommate, right, might be a really good software developer, but just they just aren't in your brain, right? You don't remember, okay, software developers, oh yes, my freshman year roommate is one of them, right? So as mindshare decreases, you lose out on opportunities, and it's pretty significant. The stat among, for example, residential real estate agents is 88% of home buyers say that they had a really good a relationship with their agent and would work with them again, but only 12% actually do. So there's a huge drop off. So therefore, what we're focusing on is how do we make sure that after we meet people, after we build mindshare, after we've built that relationship, we maintain that relationship over a long period of time, right? again, think back here, right? Mind share decreases over time. But if, say, I, send someone a text message saying, hey, just thinking of you, hope all is well, that mind share goes back up. All of a sudden, oh, I remember this person. Now there's a higher likelihood I'm going to recall that person when I need to. And more importantly, if I reach out to them, there's a higher likelihood that they're going to remember me, right? So maybe I send them a text message. Maybe I send a handwritten note to them. Maybe I identify a business challenge or a class project I helped them out on, right? Great, that mind share goes back up significantly. So we can kind of keep doing these things to make sure that over time, if I were to reach out to them, or there would be some opportunity that they come across that I'd be right for, that they think of me, right? Now, a key point here is that resolutions are meaningless, right? Y'all are old enough to know that, like, hey, come January 1st every year, we set all these really great ideas of like, oh, I want to do XYZ over the next year. I want to lose weight. I want to get in shape. I want to run a marathon. I want to get straight A's, right? And we have all these intentions, but what happens the day after New Year's Eve, right? New Year's Day, right? This is kind of what we look at, right? Yeah, it's a really good idea. Yes, of course. But you know what? I've got 364 other days this year, so I'll do it tomorrow, right? Everyone loves to go to the gym initially, and then, by end of January, things drop off. And that's why, what we focus on here, what I wrote an entire book about, honestly, is that resolutions are meaningless, but strategic plans win, right? And, this applies to so many other areas of your life too. But, this is where we want to think about, what are the habits I can pick up? What are the tools I can use? What are the processes I can follow and do repeatedly over and over again? And this is where, again, I built a CRM platform. So most people think, hey, if I want to build relationships and be better at networking, the very first thing I need to do is to get a CRM. And actually, no, honestly, the very first thing you need to do is like block time off in your calendar every week and actually like reach out to people, right? Forget all the tools and fancy gadgets and everything like that. You just need to be better at actually reaching out to people and setting aside that time. Um, so, I think an important thing to think about to get started, as we think about our strategy, is what are you trying to achieve, right? And this is going to be different for every single person here. You might just be trying to graduate, right? You might be thinking about, hey, I have a startup idea I already want to work on and I want to raise money for it. Or, you know what, I am already like thinking of starting a business and I want to get customers, right? These are obviously many of like the standard like business goals that someone may have. The last point I really like is cognitive diversity. I just like staying in touch with like interesting people with like different ways of thinking about life, right? There's so many different things that things that you can do. And so think about like, what are the goals you want to have short term? What are the goals you want to have long term? And then think about the types of people that can help you with those. So that's obviously really important. So again, this is a if you have an opportunity, get together with a few people. If you want, you can pause this video or or come back to a little bit later. But honestly, I like to say, like, just spend a few minutes just doing a breakout session with a few people. I say, like, hey, the first name the first name with the lowest in the alphabet, yeah, Zvi. So therefore I'd go first. Spend 90 seconds or so thinking about your one or two goals for your relationship building. Again, pick from this list, or think about something else. It might just be, land an awesome internship, get a great job out of college, start a company, learn how to start a company, right? It might just be like, have as many opportunities moving forward, right? So don't pick like just like networking or just like people, but think about like the types of goals that you really have. So after you've done that, now we're going to walk through the capital strategy. So these are the 7 steps that we've put together. And again, if you're interested, you can buy the book, Success in Your Sphere. You don't really need to. I'm going to walk you through the core of it here. But we're going to walk you through the capital strategy for how you build and maintain relationships in a really effective way. And yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about how you can do that in a digital setting right now. The first off, the C in capital is all about consistency. And this honestly is one of the most important things that we think about and we're going to talk about today. And this applies to so much of your life. If you're not familiar with this graphic on the left, this is the Eisenhower matrix. And as you see, there are 2 axes here, right? You have urgent and not urgent items, and then you have important and not important items, right? And we can think about any task that we need to do and think about where does it land within this matrix. To no surprise, the things that are urgent and important get prioritized, right? If I have a test tomorrow morning, very much top left corner, right? Nothing else matters than studying for that test and getting ready for it. And that's why, like, yes, I was always in the library doing all-nighter, like, because I'm stupid, cramming for the next test. Let's say like someone sends me a text message saying like, hey, check out this like really funny video I saw, right? Bottom right corner, right? It's not important at all for my life. It's funny, it's entertaining, right? And it's not urgent, right? I don't need to check it now or later. It's always going to be on YouTube, right? So we kind of think about how these tasks line up. Everything about relationship building, right, is in the bottom left corner, which is one of the biggest challenges that we have, right? Because as human beings we are wired for short-term gain, right? Again, think of the caveman, right? The caveman wasn't thinking about like, hey, how do I build relationships that are going to yield benefit for me like months or years down the line, right? The caveman was thinking about, hey, crap, like, I have to make sure I don't get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger tonight, right? How do I make sure I have food in my belly? How do I make sure I have warmth so I don't freeze to death overnight, right? Everything was around the short term, which is why as human beings, we naturally geared towards short term, right? If we really only thought about what's going to best benefit us long term, all of us would be eating salads and going to the gym every day, right? Instead, we're eating pizza and watching Netflix on our couch, right? Because that is just much better and much more fun short term, right? But relationships are long term, right? Your freshman year roommate, right? You may have no reason to talk to him like now or even for the next like, a few months or a few years. But, let's say, you're starting a startup in a few years and all of a sudden that he would have been the perfect person to bring on, right? These are the reasons why you try and build relationships. Going back to, my own story, some of the people that I built relationships with, like for example, people that I hired, I was nurturing those relationships for 3 years, right? And it may have been nothing more than like, a Twitter DM or sending a text message or an email or maybe a coffee meeting every once in a while. But we were able to maintain those relationships for a long period of time such that when they were ready to jump, right, when they were ready to leave their current job, I was one of the first people they reach out to. Then, so think about for consistency. There are 3 things that you could try. One, if you already rely on your calendar to keep your schedule of where you're supposed to be and when and who you're supposed to talk to, et cetera, a recurring calendar invite is one of the most powerful tools. So honestly, if you do nothing other than just blocking time on your calendar where that's your time to say, hey, I'm going to focus on the relationships I want to build versus like look at my inbox or look at who's texting me. Instead, I'm going to think about the people I want to text, the people I want to reach out to. That alone will just start changing the game very quickly. You could also think about downtime. So, if you've got time between classes or, if you're just like, if you have a free morning, Again, don't just spend it like, on YouTube, right? Maybe spend some time on YouTube, right? But spend that time instead reaching out to people, right? I'll repeat this hack later on, but one of the basic things that I like to do is literally like go to your inbox, go to your messages inbox, scroll down like, a few pages and find someone that you haven't spoken to since August 5th. Andy, he's actually someone who do genuinely want to like check in on, see how he's doing, right? So scroll down in your text message thread and find some people you haven't spoken to in a while and say, hey, just thinking of you, hope all is well. That's it, right? And then last is attaching rewards, right? Again, relationship building yields no like short-term benefit. It can actually yield a little bit. Like if someone says, hey, like, actually really great to hear from you, like hope all is well, that feels good back, right? But in terms of like a referral or job offer or investment, startup co-founding offer, right? That may not happen for months or years down the line. So instead, we want to actually wire our brain to give us a reward, right? So what I like to do actually is I like to say, hey, listen, if I follow up with 10 people today, then I can spend 15 minutes watching random cat videos on YouTube. So once we have consistency, the first A in capital is aggregate. Remember, as we mentioned, we have 150 relationships that we can store at any point in time. That an Excel spreadsheet can store tens of thousands of records, right? Databases can store millions of records. So building a digital copy of our brain ensures that while our brain may be forgetting information, a database doesn't. So what we want to do is we want to try and build a digital copy of our brain, right? You can think about like what can be done automatically and what can be done manually. So yeah, listen, the best, there are many different tools. You can use, a spreadsheet. You can use Contactually. There's other ones like Nimble and UpTab and Dex. There are tons of them out there. Honestly, I really recommend you start off with just a basic spreadsheet. A spreadsheet is so simple and easy to use. You add the columns you want. You don't need to click around and figure out like, how do I use this tool? You can like go into LinkedIn and export your LinkedIn contacts as a spreadsheet and drop it in there, right? But again, the most important thing is it has to be one that you are actually going to use. Going back to consistency, right? If you set up a CRM, but you don't actually put the time into using it, it's worthless. Or if you have the time, but then you can't figure out how to use the CRM and it's clunky and buggy and just it doesn't have the data you want there, then forget it. Like then find something else, even if it's something as simple as possible. So once we've aggregated those relationships, right? Listen, there are going to be so many different people, in there, right? There are going to be people that like, attended, that you went to elementary school with maybe even, right? There are going to be people that, you were in some random college, college course in freshman year on. Like there are going to be random people you were at a hackathon with. Doesn't matter. There are all these people. Once we've aggregated them into one place, because again, you never know when you may need them, now we have to think about prioritizing them. Of these people, who are the people that likely will have, I can already see are really starting to pick up in their life, right? Who are the people that I get along with really well? Who are the people that I think I can help with or I'd love to work with at some point in the future? So that's why the P is prioritize. Now, again, if we don't prioritize someone, it's not saying they're not important to us and we're never going to talk to them again. Absolutely not. Instead, we're focused on who are we going to proactively and personally maintain a relationship with. So again, not everyone matters, right? You are going to interact with, hundreds of thousands of people over the course of your life, right? From a partner or significant other to a coworker to a roommate to the barista at the Starbucks down the street. You're going to be interacting with so many people, and not everyone matters for the goals that you set early on, right? A couple things that I like to remind people of. One is amazing people become more amazing over time. So already right now, you can start to tell, like, the person who is really applying themselves in class, the person who is starting a new business, the person who's just like heads down cranking at the hackathon versus like the person who honestly is just using this as a social hour. You know, then you can think about addition by subtraction. Um, by focusing, and this, you can see this graph on the left, right? The fewer people that you have in higher priority brackets, the more you're able to focus on those relationships, right? If I had 100, let's say, all stars, right? The absolute most important people for me, right? I'm not able to spend nearly as much time and attention and put thought into those relationships as if I were to have 10 people, right? So therefore, what we're trying to do is we're trying to prioritize relationships based on our goals. Again, think about the ultimate goal that you have. Who are the types of people that can contribute to that goal, right? And then who are the people that you know fit those types? Or maybe that you don't know that you can now spend time trying to reach out and build a relationship with. So for example, if I were trying to raise money, well, one thing I could do is, I can think about, raising money from my existing investors. So I want to keep maintaining relationships with my existing investors. I want to think about the target investors that I've met. Right. I maybe met them at they were judging a hackathon, or I attended a webinar with them, or maybe we're exchanging some DMs on Twitter, whatever. Right. But we want to make sure that we maintain relationships with those people. So those go into one of our buckets. Then think about, the founders, right? Other founders or entrepreneurs or students we know who know those investors, right? Maybe they interned at a VC firm over the summer, right? Those are the types of people that we want to maintain relationships with. Some bad examples. I don't just try and stay in touch with anyone you follow on Twitter. I talked about cognitive diversity, but saying, hey, I just want to stay in touch with interesting people, that alone isn't necessarily going to be enough, or important people, right? I met Mark Zuckerberg, the founder of Facebook, in 2006 because we're in the same fraternity together. And so what, right? Like, I can't, there's nothing I can do to build and maintain that relationship. And even if I were to know him, there's nothing necessarily like that he and I can do to help each other right now. So one thing I suggest you do as a follow-up exercise, think about the types of people that fit those goals, right, that you set, and then who are people you meet that you would not proactively stay in touch with, right? Again, think of like the freshman year roommate, or like the high school classmate, or the rando that attended your bar mitzvah or something like that, right? Think about the people that like you start to realize, like, wait a second, like, if I'm thinking about starting a company, right? I did see that person started a company. So I actually think that like maybe they could actually lend some insight to me. Great. You can build relationships with those people, right? It's always, and I always like, you may initially scoff at this exercise. And honestly, like I do too. I'm like, oh, I know who I need to stay in touch with. But every time I take out a piece of paper and actually work through the exercise, I always come up with like completely different people that I need to stay in touch with. Then we want to think about investigate, right? And investigating is, how do we build up as much knowledge and insight about these relationships as possible? And there are many different approaches for it. And I'll bring up the basketball in a second, right? One is embrace small talk, right? I love small talk. Again, you're just meeting someone, you run with them at a hackathon, or you catch up with a friend who haven't spoken to in a couple weeks. And, yeah, initially, like, you're exchanging, just usual pleasantries about, I don't know, like traffic or what you did over the weekend or something like that. those are fascinating things because that gives you a lot of insight into who this person is, right? This applies a lot more in like a business context, but like, oftentimes in a business meeting, obviously you're there to talk about some kind of transaction or project you're working on or something like that. But you'll kind of, again, exchange the usual pleasantries. I freaking love small talk because you learn about who that person is. Um, the other thing I'll mention here is to have a small bladder. And I really mean this in that, after every conversation you have with someone, let's say, you're at a, hackathon or, party or something like that, you have a really awesome conversation with someone. And oftentimes, you just will, merge and talk to someone else, or, or, you'll turn around and, engage with someone else or leave the party, whatever. Um, as much as possible, after every like meaningful interaction with someone, say, hey, after running the bathroom, step out in the hallway and write down some notes of people, write down some notes, right? I literally, like, I have like a bullet journal, this is my 2020 journal. I take notes of every single conversation I have because I meet so many amazing people and things, right? Some questions you want to ask yourself, like, okay, well, what do I know about them? um, is there anything I owe them, right? A big problem that, especially in professional circles, is we always say, oh yeah, like, I'm going to send you this particular article or something like that, and then you know what, you don't, right? What can you find out about them? Like, can you do online research? Can you go on Instagram and scroll down to their oldest posts, right? The really silly ones when they didn't even know what Instagram was, right? And you can learn a little bit more about them just by going to like the oldest information. What was your last conversation, right? What do you know about them? So again, you're probably wondering, okay, Zvi, like, what's going on with the basketball? There's a very particular story that stands out for me. When I was trying to grow my team at Contactually, like, I would have a lot of coffee meetings with prospects, either people I was trying to hire or people who knew people I was trying to hire. And there was one person in particular that, we had, I'd say, like a pretty standard coffee meeting. And as we were ending the conversation, we were just, as we were walking out of the coffee shop, we were just, again, chatting about, okay, it's Friday afternoon, what are you doing this weekend? And he happened to mention, among other things he was doing around the house, that his son was playing in a free throw tournament. And said, oh, that's interesting. That's cool. Does he play basketball a lot? And he's like, yeah, honestly, he's really into basketball. It's one of his like favorite things to do when he's like not studying. He's, in our driveway, like shooting hoops, right? So again, I kind of took note of that and then completely forgot about it. And then when I wanted to follow up with him, a few months down the line, again, I could have just, send him a normal message saying, hey, listen, just checking in, hope all is well. We'd love to see where you're at. Instead, I went online on Amazon. I spent $15 and I sent a basketball to his house with a little note saying, hey, just, thanks so much for your time the other week. And this is for you and your son. Hope he nails the next free throw tournament, right? Imagine getting that, right? Imagine getting like a basketball from someone instead of just like a normal email. And it costs like $15, like not much more than like, not much more than like, a handwritten card or a note or something like that, right? It's pretty easily throwaway money. But it shows that you know them, right? And that's the amazing thing that you can do when you can record the intelligence around people. Timeliness. We're going to start kind of picking up the pace for the next few. The most important thing, of course, once we have these relationships, is, am I actually staying in touch with them? And there are two ways to make sure that too long doesn't go by without you reaching out to them. The basic is obviously like something triggers you, right? Hey, you see it's their birthday, actually reach out to them on their birthday, right? Oh, they posted something. Well, don't just be the 100th like on Facebook, but actually send them a text message saying, hey, I saw we just posted. That's really awesome, right? You saw some news that's relevant to them or their town or their interests or whatever. Or, hey, you just thought of them, there's absolutely nothing, especially like in COVID times, there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying, hey, listen, I know it's been a few months, hope you and the family are doing well, just thinking of you. That's it, right? You can set that to anyone. The other way to think about it is timed, right? And this is where, yeah, you could have a column in a spreadsheet or leverage a CRM to set these very specific reminders. I like to say, hey, listen, by default, like try and stay in touch with people every 90 days. Again, making sure that you're catching up with friends, even long-term friends, like 4 times a year. That's totally fine, right? That's an easy thing to do. Adding value, right? And now again, we don't talk about just following up, right? And you'll hear lots of like sales mantras and everything like that, that the fortune is in the follow-up. Instead, our focus here for relationship building, for building personal and authentic relationships that don't come out as like spammy and everything like that, is about how to make it as meaningful to them as possible. How do I make it relevant to them, something that they would actually valuable, and that it's authentic to you and to them as well. This Maya Angelou quote, this is honestly like one of my favorite quotes of all time, right? People will forget what you said. I send an email to someone, right? They're not gonna remember what I wrote in that email, right? People will forget what you did, right? The person who bought the basketball, who I got the basketball for, right? That basketball is probably by now like deflated and thrown away and whatever. But people will never forget how you made them feel, right? So the moment I reach out to that person, right, he'll remember that, hey, he's someone who like cares about me, right? And so think about the feeling that we're trying to deliver. Now, there are, of course, many ways to add value, and especially in digital context, there are many different things. The baseline, and again, I've mentioned this a couple times, right, is this, right? This is meaningful, relevant, and authentic. Why? Because what we're doing, it's meaningful, right? It's showing I care about someone, right? It's sending that personal note. It's relevant, right? It has actually been a long time no talk. It's authentic. It's me actually showing that I care about this person. Why does it show? Because I added that no need to respond, right? If I wanted something from that person, right, then yes, I would ask them a question, right? But instead, I cared about the feeling delivered. I just want them to know that I care about them. So to give them the out, right? To not make them do more work of saying, "Oh, great, I got another text message, and now I have to like figure out a response and who is this person, etc." Instead, I'm just, I receive a text message and I say, "Oh, no, no, no need to respond. I can just, as like you just hold down and just like the message, and that's it." Right? Or maybe I see, oh, that's actually nice. So like I can respond back and say, "Oh, awesome. Like, great to hear from you. Yeah. Hope things are great with you too." Right? And that's it. Right? That alone is a valuable experience. And the important thing to focus on is it's about the action, not the result, right? That's really what matters for us right now. We are not trying to get something from them. We are trying to maintain the relationship. So we are focused on what we can control. We are swinging the bat as hard as we can and not worrying about whether or not it's a home run. Now, there are many different ways of adding value. The obvious one is direct, right? If there's something you need, if there's something you want, I can add value to you directly. I can buy you a gift. I can grab coffee with you. I can send you a note. Another way to do it is via connection, right? So obviously, a lot of amazing people, right? By connecting to people, right? In college, I actually helped set up, I think there are 3 marriages that I can count, say like that's because of like me or my partners, things like that. So you can obviously add value by making connection, or you can add value by creating community. And this is something that I like to do a lot. So nowadays I host these virtual networking breakfasts, right? Again, like what we're doing is I'm grabbing 6 friends of mine, right? Some of them who don't know each other, bringing them all onto a Zoom, and like we have like I have some rituals set up. But again, like these 6 people aren't interacting with me, they're interacting with each other, they're building relationships with each other. But because I was there, because I helped bring those people together, all of a sudden all these 6 people, have built really great relationships. Last is leverage. um, you know, and so again, the L in capital is for leverage. Make it easier to do what you repeatedly want to do. Now, again, we talked about consistency in the very beginning, right? Consistency is making sure we're doing things over and over again, right? And obviously, like, let's say, for example, if I wanted you to, if I wanted you to like lift a rock up the hill, right? Yeah, if it's a really heavy rock, you're not going to do it consistently because you're like, that sucked, that was hard, why would I do that, right? But if it was easier for you to do, right, if it were like a 5 pound rock, right, then it'd be much easier for you to push up a hill. Maybe a much better example is, if you want to go to the gym every day, right, how do you make it as easy as possible for you to go to the gym every day? Well, one of the best things that you could do is you could have your gym shoes by the door, right? With your like wallet and cell phone and keys ready to go, right? Or you can, have like a list of workout videos on your phone saved on a playlist, right? So it's much easier for you to do that, right? How do we decrease friction as much as possible? So, for example, when it comes to relationship building, I actually have a stack of books. You can't see it's in my closet behind me. I have a stack of books that I like to send out to friends. And actually, because a lot of people in my network were just like kind of at that age where everyone's having first or second kids, I actually have like a big batch of like kids' toys with pre-addressed envelopes ready to go out to people. So the moment that like I hear that someone's expecting their kid, I can write a little handwritten note, drop in the mail, and they're off, right? So closing thoughts, right? Um, and there's a blog post by Bryce Roberts. If you just honestly Google "most people won't," you'll find it. This to me is like one of the most important things. Everyone here, if you're paying attention to the session, everyone here knows that relationships are really important, but most people won't, right? Most people are gripped by fear. Most people feel, hey, I don't have anything important to say to them, or what happens if they don't like me, right? Therefore, those that do are the people that really stand out. You know, my personal email has been on my website for 10 years, right? Maybe only like 5 people, a year actually send me a personal email with a question, right? It's freaking amazing, right? Versus like I can't imagine. I see the website traffic, I see the number of people going to my contact me page, right? Like, most people won't. Most people turn away at that. So focus on being the person that sends that note, right? How many people here, do you see in your CRM, in your database, right? Go into your messages folder, right? Find people you haven't spoken to in a while. And I guarantee you there's going to be a little bit of fear of saying, hey, what should I reach out to them? And there's always that fear, and that causes you not to. Trial and error. You will make mistakes of your life. And actually, I found like when we were putting together the book, and I actually closed the book with this, that one common thread among all these amazing networkers and builders is they all talked about the mistakes that they made over the years, right? And again, the Wayne Gretzky quote, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? It's completely okay to make a mistake, to call the person the wrong name in an email or something like that, to accidentally lose touch with someone that you meant to, something like that. But don't let that shame or that fear of making a mistake stop you from moving forward. Um, and then give and expect nothing in return, right? I'm here presenting to you, right? I don't see your faces. You may never talk to me again, but hey, maybe you mention this to someone, or you reach out to me later on, or you see a job post for a company I start in the future, and something triggers to say, hey, maybe I should reach out to Zvi, right? So give and expect nothing in return, right? And last but not least, and again, I open with this: consistency. do this right now, right? Open up your calendar, setting a recurred calendar event, or you know what, just like open up your phone and reach out to a few people you haven't to in a while. And then you know what, just like do it tomorrow and the day after and the day after. Here's all the information to reach out to me. I'm at Skivis. You can email me z@roger10.xyz or at Zvi Band. Thanks so much, and hope you have a great day.